Satan, Mephistopheles, Beelzebub, Lucifer, the Lord of the Underworld, he who walks behind the rose, the Antichrist, the devil. Whatever you call him, he's often considered the ultimate bad guy. After Rosemary's Baby in 1968 and The Exorcist in 1973, studios were green-lighting dozens of movies about the devil, devil worship, or demonic possession. One of those films was this week's flick, The Devil's Reign. The Devil's Reign is a 1975 horror film from director Robert Fust. To set the tone, the movie opens with some demonic imagery. A lot of demonic imagery, like a solid 4 minutes of it. Since the movie's called The Devil's Reign, it doesn't waste any time getting to that rain part. Mrs. Preston is waiting for her husband and son to come home. Her assistant John brings her some coffee.
I've just made you a fresh pot of coffee, Mrs. Preston.
Her son Mark has returned after looking for his father. He is surprisingly dry considering it's raining like this out there. After trying to calm his mother down, they hear someone outside.
Steve? Steve?
The book. Corbus.
Then he melts away like an ice cream cone in the middle of summer. Did he just return from a mission to Saturn? Alright, so he's melting, and yeah, he sure is melting there, and I'm just gonna keep going with this, aren't they? Before he dissolved, Steve said something about a guy named Corbus being in a town called Redstone, and he's looking for a book. Since Steve was looking for a book, Mrs. Preston pulls the Devil's Bible out from a hiding spot in the floor. Hold on a second, what was that? I knew it!
Please take it.
No. They won't give the devil's man what he wants.
Your father
My
would have...
father would agree with me.
Ah, classic Shatner delivery. Anyway, Mark returns the book and hears a truck out front.
He's here. It's the truck.
He seems awful chipper for someone who just saw his father die a horrible death. He heads out to the truck and finds it empty except for a voodoo doll. Look at it! He hears a ruckus from inside the house and goes back in. These guys don't waste any time. He was outside for about 2 minutes, and when he goes back in, the house is trashed, his mother's missing, and John is hanging upside down. Did they also fill the house with elaborate but devious traps that would normally have taken hours to... never mind.
Mother?
Mark takes an amulet of protection and goes to rescue his mother. He leaves in the middle of the night while it's still raining and walks outside to see it's stopped raining and it's daytime. He heads to the town of Redstone. So I guess we're going to see this trip in real time? After several hours of driving footage, Mark makes it to Redstone. He encounters Corbus, the Fonzie of Redstone.
Use some water?
Corbus's goofy smile is unsettling. Corbus makes a deal with Mark that if his faith is stronger than his, he can have his mother and father back. Although I'm guessing he'd have to bring his father home in a bucket. If Corbus's faith is stronger, he gets the book and Mark's soul. Mark heads into the church as they get ready for a dark ceremony. Mark and Corbus begin to have an overact-off.
In the name of God, I am Mark Preston.
In the name of Satan, Martin Fife, come into this vessel.
The servants attack Mark, so he shoots them, only to discover they're filled with pudding. Mark goes outside and Corbus puts a hex on him, so he drops the amulet. These special effects are awesome! Mark, now without the amulet, tries to get away.
10 at the 19. Reverse, Harbin. Looks for a block, cuts inside. He is to the 5, spins, touchdown Gators.
He makes it to his car, but they capture him. The movie then switches to Mark's brother Tom, or as I call him, the Mustached Avenger. Tom is showcasing his wife Julie. Julie has ESP and catches glimpses of the past and future. She keeps having visions of the satanic church and other unusual stuff.
It's as if I were watching a movie.
Tom gets a message that his family's missing, so he and Julie go to look for them. They stop at the house and John tells them that they went to Redstone.
What is it? What is that stuff?
It's, what's left of your father. Corbus is torturing Mark to try to find out where the book is. Tom's driving to Redstone, and they really love showing us this trip every time. Tom and Julie stop at a church.
I've seen churches like this in New England.
New England is full of dilapidated, boarded-up churches. They go inside, but no one's there. They find a shirt, and just in case you weren't sure who it belonged to, it conveniently has Mark's name written on it. They hear an explosion, and someone blew up their car. That same someone tries to run them over in Mark's car and escapes into one of the buildings. Tom chases after him. "Excuse me, do you have a moment to talk about Scientology? Oh, jeez!" Tom ties up the sweat hog, and Julie looks into his eyes to see the past. Just when I thought Corbus couldn't get any sillier, now he's wearing a pilgrim costume. Corbus is searching for the book. It seems that all the people in the village signed the book in blood and pledged their allegiance to Satan. One of them is having second thoughts and stole the book. While interrogating everyone, he hears a knock at the door.
Be silent. No one knows what we are about.
I think they're on to you.
What manner of God's business keeps thee from thy bed at this hour, sir?
God's most holy business.
Burning witches! The preacher captures the devil worshippers and leads them to be burned at the stake. Corbus puts a hex on the town.
As the cock will crow in the dawn after my body burns, so too will the sun rise.
He's not exactly Christopher Lee in The Wicker Man. Back in the present, they head outside to leave the town. Since their car was blown up, it was awful nice of them to leave Mark's car. Tom decides to go back and sends Julie to go get the sheriff. Julie's heading away when, surprise! Now I told you, this is the way to the Piggly Wiggly. The cult's bringing Mark to their alternate sacrifice location. You know, it is such a nice night, we thought we'd perform this ritual outside. Tom's sneaking into the event. In case you've ever wondered what Ernest Borgnine would look like if he was a goat, here you go.
Who calls me from out of the pit?
I have to admit, I'm freaked out. Corbus transforms Mark into one of his servants. So Shatner isn't going to be the hero? I don't think anyone would have seen that coming. One of the cultists recognizes Tom. How? He's blind. Are they like the evolved graboids? Tom shoots some of the cultists trying to escape. He gets away and runs back to town. He's inside the house and stabs one of them with a pitchfork. How come all the cultists have butterscotch pudding on one side and pistachio on the other? Tom heads back to talk to Sam. He tells him about the book and how the names listed are people who sold their souls to the devil.
This book was owned by Corbus, 300 years ago?
Corbus is how old? I wonder what his secret for long life is.
You look fantastic. You look like you're in your late 60s, early 70s. What's the secret?
I don't dare tell you.
No meat. You don't eat meat.
I masturbate a lot.
The book also mentions something called the Devil's Reign, which is what I guess happened in the beginning of the movie. Back at the ritual site, Corbus is performing another ceremony, this time to try and take Julie's soul. Tom and Sam head into the church. Sam notices a grate in the floor, and they move it to discover a gigantic Fabergé egg. Clearly, it's the Devil's Egg. They surmise that the egg is where Corbus keeps all the souls he collects. So this is kind of like Pokemon. Alright, the sheriff is here to help, and he's possessed. They fight him off and drop him into what I guess is an actual hellhole. The cultists are bringing Julie back to the church. Tom and Sam try to hide with the egg. One of the cultists sees the grate open and finds that Tom left the book behind. Oops. The cultist gives the book to Corbus, who is super excited. Tom tries to rescue Julie, but he gets captured. Sam threatens to destroy the egg, but it doesn't go so well.
I will destroy the Devil's Reign!
Mark remembers who he is and smashes the egg, which unleashes the Devil's Reign. So for the next 10 minutes it rains and all the cultists begin to melt. I'm not kidding, the last 10 minutes of the film is non-stop melting. It's pretty disgusting. Ugh, I've had colds like that. Corbus fights Tom, but is hit with the Devil's Reign, and so he begins to melt. The Incredible Melting Man didn't have this much melting. Tom, Sam, and Julie escape. Corbus falls in the hellhole and the church explodes. Tom hugs Julie, but it's really Corbus? It seems he switched bodies with Julie, and his soul is now trapped in the Devil's Reign. But they just destroyed the Devil's Reign, didn't they?
I masturbate a lot.
The movie was filmed mostly in Durango, Mexico, for an undisclosed budget. Even the director was never officially told how much money they had. Originally, the film was set to be an 8-week shoot, but on the first day of filming, they found out that they only had 6 weeks. They had to drastically adjust the schedule, and many of the shoots ran well into the night. Director Robert Fust originally got his start in television, working on commercials, and then moving on to shows like The Avengers. He was noticed for directing horror after doing the Vincent Price classics The Abominable Dr. Phibes and Dr. Phibes Rises Again. so he was offered The Devil's Reign. While he liked the concept of the film, he felt the writers were just making things up as they went along. He often argued with them about various plot holes and inconsistencies, but eventually he was stuck just filming some scenes that, admittedly, made little sense. After this, Fust was offered a chance to direct another Dr. Phibes movie, but he turned it down because he didn't want to be typecast as a horror director. Fust was originally a painter before moving on to TV and movies. He chose the Bosch paintings in the beginning of the film since his work is so well known for its extreme religious imagery. The film was produced by Sandy Howard, who also produced the award-winning film A Man Called Horse. The Devil's Reign was filmed in many of the same locations. It was odd to watch the film thinking William Shatner would be the hero, only to see him possessed about halfway through. Star Trek was canceled back in 1969, but by this point it had already become a cult hit. So much so that Shatner had to leave the set for a few days to make an appearance at a convention. Tom Skerritt played Tom. Even though he had been working in TV and movies since 1962, he was still relatively unknown. He worked with Shatner and Joan Prather on Big Bad Mama in 1974, which helped to land him the role in this. Ernest Borgnine played Jonathan Corbus. He was mostly known as McHale in McHale's Navy and was looking to do something really outside of his comfort zone. Lots of unusual things happened on the set, and Borgnine was so freaked out that he swore he would never do any kind of satanic movie again. The high priest in the film was played by Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan and author of the Satanic Bible. The movie also had classic actress Ida Lupino as Mrs. Preston and famous character actor Keenan Wynn as the sheriff. This was John Travolta's first film. While on set, he became friends with Joan Prather, who played Julie. Prather introduced Travolta to a little-known religion at the time, the Church of Scientology. Travolta joined, and the following year he had his breakout role in Carrie, and followed that a year later with the film that made him a massive star, Saturday Night Fever. I'm not saying Scientology had anything to do with it, but it is an interesting coincidence. The editor, Michael Kahn, moved on from this to edit the Spielberg classic Close Encounters of the Third Kind. After that, he became Spielberg's exclusive editor. Not a bad gig to have. The Egg was actually a special housing around a small television set. They filmed the footage in LA and played it on the TV during the scenes. They had to work extra hard to make sure to hide all the cables that were running to the set, so whenever they moved it or held it, they would often cut to another angle. When Shatner lost his soul, his face looked extra creepy. At first I couldn't put my finger on it, but then I remembered this. Look familiar? If you know your horror history, the original Michael Myers mask from Halloween was just a William Shatner mask painted white. While the movie does have its silly moments, overall it is effectively scary. Borgnine may have been an unusual choice for Corbus, but his toothy grin and weird faces made him downright uncomfortable. Not to mention just how off-putting it was to see him as a demon. The prosthetics were just awesome for a 1975 low-budget feature. Even though the film was short, it was only 86 minutes, there was a lot of scenes that could have been trimmed. The driving scenes for one, and especially the big melting scene at the end. Director Robert Fust agrees. He thought the whole thing would have been much more effective if it was 10 or 15 minutes shorter. However, the studio spent a lot of time and money on the big finale, so they wanted it to be showcased as much as possible. They even had it as a cornerstone for marketing the picture, with the tagline, "Absolutely the most incredible ending of any motion picture." It was pretty incredible. Not so much that it was happening, but that such a dark, violent movie where 90% of the cast melts in the end was only rated PG.